America has certain creation myths, and it's important to keep those myths as sort of our North Star. Let us be that more perfect union. But let us also recognize that we have a long way to get there, and that in order to get there, you've got to understand your history. You've got to understand the complexity. You've got to understand the dark moments. Because only by understanding those dark moments do you really understand the resiliency and the strength of a people.
I agree. I think that the great anxiety in all of this is to not have a kind of Soviet set, where you throw out everything and select a new history as if nothing ever existed. And I understand, well, people could feel anxious about that. I don't think that's going on, and I don't think that's going to go on. I think the more is the reactionary thing, that this is a legitimate part. This wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights or nullification or interposition and it's not. It's all about slavery. If you look at the South Carolina Articles of Secession, they do not mention states' rights. They do not mention nullification. They do not mention the other raging congressional and constitutional issues of the day. They mentioned slavery an awful lot. And that's what worried them, that they were going to take away what turned out to be their most valuable property, which are the human beings they owned in a country which fourscore and 5 years before had proclaimed that all men are created equal. So we've got to be able to contain. And by the way, the guy who wrote that sentence owned more than 200 human beings. And so we're not talking about throwing out the Jefferson Memorial or tearing down Monticello. We're not talking about removing Mount Vernon, a very obvious plantation, or removing Monticello, a very disguised plantation, but a plantation nonetheless, characterized as some classical hoo-ha, and beautiful. Uh, but we got to do the pruning. I'm not suggesting going into Gettysburg and lopping off all the statues of Robert E. Lee, the battlefield there. Let's leave it. There's an appropriate places. Nothing will be lost in this story unless we have the kind of horrific wholesale, Soviet style cleansing of the system. And we're not about that. Americans are strong enough to figure out how to tolerate the good and the bad.